Hey everybody, Tony D with a Hollywood hot take. This one is about the death of cult of celebrity, if you will. Everybody on YouTube's talking about like celebrity culture is dead. I would like to respectfully disagree with some of the YouTubers. Now, I will grant you that the current cult of celebrity is dead, very much so. The current round of celebrities have humiliated themselves in many different ways. Some of it's not their fault. A lot of it is the fault of the studios who are pushing sort of agendas and trends that aren't really grounded in reality. They're more grounded in their political ideology and who they support, you know, in politics more than anything else. They're a little behind the times. You know, it's not cool to be a liberal anymore. It's really not. You know, I know a lot of you think you're brave and stunning and wonderful people to make fun of Donald Trump, right? Oh, we're going to make fun of Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump's a bad person. Wow, what a stance. What a stance. Yeah, that's not the edgy thing to do anymore. It hasn't been for a few years. And unfortunately, a lot of people in power in Hollywood are very much on the Democratic side. You know, it used to be in Hollywood there were money guys, and they'd kind of tolerate the liberals, but really the big muckety-mucks were conservatives because they were Republicans and they didn't want to pay any taxes. So these days that's kind of changed. The whole left-right dynamic is sort of switching over. And most of the rich people, most of the people who are clinging to their elite status are in the Democratic Party now. The people who are rich in the Republican parties, yeah, some of them are always been die-in-the-wool conservatives, but a lot of them are Democratic moderates who are businessmen who have just said, these Democrats, I'm done with them. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand business anymore. They're not giving us our due. I'm out. So Hollywood is one of these last groups of people who are holding on to the Democratic Party like they think they're in the resistance. And some of them believe that, and some of them are just paying lip service because they think that's popular. And unfortunately, there are still a lot of people, especially in marketing, publicity, they listen to Twitter. Twitter is a bad gauge of the American electorate and the general pulse of your fans. You can't get a good read on Twitter. You can't even get a good read on Twitter even if you've got a bit of a following. Now, my following has been growing because I joined the writers community, and they're a nice community and I like them, and it's writers following other writers, and that's all been good for me. Even sold a few books. However, that writing community skews a certain way. It's mostly female. It's mostly a good section of it's woke and a good section of it's left. I've actually had to unfriend a handful of them just because they're so annoying and stupid. I don't want to hear from them. And I certainly don't want to argue with them. I'm trying to promote books here. But, you know, you can't really get a gauge on Twitter. Like, Trump maybe could get a kind of a gauge. But the thing is, the whole pool of people on Twitter is tainted. Twitter has spent the last 5 years driving every conservative off the platform that they can. Almost all of them are gone. The only ones that are left are these die-hard people who either had too big of a following to leave it behind because they need it to promote. People like Ben Shapiro, people like that who are like promoting something. I totally respect that. But they're, you know, your average conservative, they're not going to be on Twitter. They just don't want to be bothered. They're more likely to go on a platform like Facebook, where they're still hostile to conservatives on there, but they generally, you know, in private conversations anyway, they're happy to leave you alone because in its own way, Facebook is more apolitical because they're kind of ruthlessly capitalistic. Kind of. But even they have their limits, and they've banned people too. They ban more of the pages, which they feel they have more control over, I guess, and they've got more monitoring going on there rather than actual individuals. But they have banned individuals too. I mean, look, the thing about Facebook is it's now designed that you really can't use it as an advertising tool to much effectiveness, I think, unless you pay money. It's been designed that way. However, you've got something like TikTok and Instagram. Those are a little more wide open. Now, there's been a little bit of censorship on the Instagram. Not so much on TikTok that I've heard. Now, that may not be true. I don't know. I don't totally follow TikTok all that much. But because it's actually run by the Chinese government, by the way, which is why I don't want to really get it, they would be happy to sow as much division and outrage and controversy as possible to stir things up in the United States. So you may see some conservative kids gravitate towards that and do some edgy things that they'll let through. Some of the other platforms I'm on, the more free speech platforms, Minds, Gab, BitChute, Parler, those are good for that, but there's hardly any people on there. I mean, there's some, but not the kind of big amounts that you get on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. So, so what's my point? My point is celebrities, the current crop of celebrities are dying because they're getting atomized in terms of their audiences by the internet. So that has less to do with their current embarrassments than it has to do with not understanding how the internet totally works. And one of the ways it works is if you're a YouTuber, you kind of can't be a phony, right? Like, I can't pretend that I'm rich, because eventually if I get enough followers and fame on YouTube, people who know me or have known me may leak out information, and if I'm lying in any kind of obvious way, that will come out. And I wouldn't want that to come out, that I lied. I'm not lying, but if I got caught being a liar, it would hurt my credibility and therefore hurt my subscriber base. And we've seen that play out with YouTubers all over the place. There was a recent YouTuber, what the heck did she lie about? I forget. But they got called out. And there was this other YouTuber. His girlfriend became a webcam girl, and he had said some things about webcam girls in the past, and they called him all sorts of names, and he kind of looks bad, because he's letting his girlfriend do this. I don't know. I guess they need the money. I guess he can't control his girlfriend. Who can? But you have to be genuine on the internet. There's too many eyes, too many ways that you can get called out. And if you are who you are, then, it's all good. No one's going to call you. No one's going to call me out for being libertarian. I've said it a million times in my videos. I'm a libertarian. So what? If I had hid that fact and pretended like I don't know, that I was some left-leaning Bernie bro and tried to elicit Bernie bro donations for, I don't know, T-shirts or whatever, and then I got called out as a libertarian, you'd be like, whoa, wait a minute, this guy's a phony. He's a phony. Celebrities are inherently phony. The entire town of city of Los Angeles is inherently phony. If you've ever been there, you'll have the experience. There's so many phony people there. They say things they don't mean. As I've often said, everybody on the East Coast is rude, but they mean it. Everybody on the West Coast is polite, but they don't. So, you'll have people say the nicest things to you. Oh, you got to come over sometime and take a dip in my pool. But if you ever take them up on that, they'll be like, oh, hi, oh, kind of came here at a bad time. It's just the way the culture is, and I think it has a lot to do with actors being sort of mildly famous at all levels, and how the industry has influenced the city. So, yes, this current crop of celebrities, their followings are getting hammered because of this. Because the only people who are still insulated from it are people who don't go on the internet that much, which tend to be older people, people who work too much and don't really use the internet all that much. And that's becoming smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And the audiences for television and movies shrinking and shrinking and shrinking because there's just so much on the internet to see and do. But even that's being compartmentalized. So you can go on the internet and be a big fan of somebody that lots of people have never heard of, but they still have hundreds of thousands of followers. I mean, that's a pretty big following. Think about that. If you have 500,000 followers, that's a lot of people. That is a city of people who follow you. And, but that's still not in the scheme of things. That's not world famous. Really? I mean, I guess you could say if those people are spread out all over the world, but think about that. 500,000 people spread out over the world. 500,000 spread out in, 4 billion people. Is it 4 billion or 8 billion? I forget what the planet's population is. Let's see. It's like 2 billion and 1.2 in China. I think it's 4 billion, somewhere there, maybe heading to 5. So let's just say 5 for the sake of my math. So 500,000 people as compared to a billion. Well, a billion people is 1,000 million. 500 million would be 500,000 would be 0.0%, 0.05%. Yeah, I think that's correct. 0.05%. That's not a big percentage of the world, right? Now, 500,000 in the United States, if they're mostly in the United States, that is, well, it's less than 1%. I would say it's close to maybe like 0.1%, like 0.1% of the country, 500,000. And you got to figure, like, even if you have 500,000 subscribers, some of them don't watch you anymore. Some of them subscribed and then never came back to their account. So really, it's less than that. So it's hard to gauge these things. So what is a celebrity? I think it's changing. I think the audiences are atomizing to the point at which you're not going to have Johnny Depp's and big name celebrities like, in back in the day, like Humphrey Bogart, people like that. They were world famous because they watched the movies, and everybody watched the movies, and they kind of all watched the same movies. Now I can watch, movies you've never heard of, and you could watch a completely different set of movies, and we could talk about movies and not even have, any crisscross, really. I was just telling somebody, they were laughing. Oh, I just watched this cool Malaysian zombie movie the other day, and they of course never heard of that. I mean, it came out of Malaysia. Every country now has its own movie industry. I mean, think how big the Indian movie industry is in Bollywood. And there's actually, I was schooled in this in the comments, and I have to get back to this, but it's going to take some research. I was schooled in the comments that it's not just Bollywood. It's like 5 different provinces and a bunch of different languages and cultures over there. It's super complicated. And so in that country, there's like 5 different movie industries. And they're all sort of making movies to different cultures. The one we've heard about is Bollywood, probably because of that name. And, it's not all the same. But as Americans, we're not really tied into that unless you're an Indian American. You might know more because your family's from there, but it's complicated. Everything's complicated. It's a big country with millions of people in it, so it makes sense that different parts of that country have different movie industries. It's not like the United States where we basically have, we have one movie industry, but we have sub industries. We have the Hollywood. We have the independent movie sort of circuit, which is kind of a different group of people. We have the independent movie circuit, like the film festival circuit, where there's a bunch of short films floating around. We have movies on YouTube that people make that don't go to either one of those things or don't get distribution. They're hoping to get into the money somewhere down the line. There's porn. Porn is a completely different world onto its own. It's not crossing over with any of these other movie genres. It's got its own rules. It's got its own fan base. Yeah, and granted, in the United States, these fan bases will cross over. And there are people who watch a lot of foreign films, like me. I watch a lot of foreign stuff because I'm watching zombie movies and I'm drilling down, and I ran out of American zombie movies a long time ago. So, there's all sorts of different groupings of people, and they watch different things. So there will be different celebrities amongst these different atomized groups. But there'll always be some. There's YouTube celebrities. YouTube celebrities are big in their own way. PewDiePie is world famous. He's got 100 million followers, more than probably any of the major stars in Hollywood when you think about it. Johnny Depp just started going on the internet, and he didn't have 100 million fans on YouTube yet. No. He's he could get there if he worked at it, I'm sure, because he is world famous, and once word leaks around that he's got a channel, if he wants to keep up with it, oh yeah, they'd be up for him. Although maybe that medium isn't really for him. He's a different, it's like trying to say, well, you're a painter, you should do comic books. It may not work out. A painter is more of an illustrator, more of someone who's going to work in that medium better and provide you with a wonderful painting. If he's forced to do more work in the comic book world, where you got to produce 22 pages a month, the quality will suffer, and it's not his forte. Same thing with Johnny Depp. If he was forced to do a video or 4 videos every day, I'm sure the quality would suffer, and he wouldn't be able to give the amazing performances that he gives in the movies, where he takes all this time and he builds it up, he spends all this time to do that. So, not that it wouldn't be good, it would be different. Jack Black is making the move to YouTube. He has been for a while. He's doing okay, right? Because he's more suited for that. He's more of a comedian. He's more of a comedic guy. And, he just did this funny bit with his iPhone the other day. Ryan Reynolds, he's a guy who's probably going to survive into the internet age, and Ricky Gervais, because they saw the bloated carcass that was the previous celebrity culture, and they knew enough to say, no, I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm not going to be an a-hole. I'm not going to be these egomaniacs who think they can sing Imagine and help the country. I'm going to be like a real person, and that is more appealing now. That's what the internet celebrities are about. So some celebrities are going to make the transition, and some won't. Some will die in the world of movies. Just like some people back in the silent movie era could not make the transition to movies with sound. There were plenty of, Laurel and Hardy. Their comedy didn't quite translate as well. Fatty Arbuckle. He had his own problems, but, Buster Keaton, those guys, Harold Lloyd, those guys were all silent movie stars. Probably Laurel and Hardy are the two that basically transferred into sound movies better than most of the other silent stars. And then there were new stars, because with the advent of sound in the movies, they were able to take advantage of their, the music, their verbal deliveries, or whatever. They were able to use that full range of stuff. And there will be people like that who take advantage of that in the future. I'm taking advantage of that now. I'm taking advantage of the ease of technology, just sitting in front of the camera, and not everybody does that, even with their YouTubes, right? There's somebody, you've got Dictor Von Doomcock. He's got a character. He doesn't show his face. Maybe that's, it's more iconic. He likes that. It gives him something to brand. It's something I thought about doing, but yeah, I'm lazy. And plus, I feel like I've got more charisma in that area. I talk a lot, and people listen to me when I talk for some reason. They don't listen to what I actually say, but they like the sound of my voice and my facial features and my mannerisms and my little beard, which you constantly comment on and tell me to either shave off or that it's crooked, or that I look like Colonel Sanders, or it looks like somebody said it looks like a landing strip for gnats. He was the censored comic. Yeah, I can see why he was censored. But the thing is, there'll always be famous people because people want to believe in heroes, and celebrities are our modern heroes. So no matter what happens, somehow somebody's going to be famous. They may be famous on accident, you know, they may stumble into it, and they often do, but they become famous because people want to talk about famous people. They want to have that connection, you know. Oh, do you watch so-and-so? Yeah, I watch him too. Well, what do you think of him? Oh, I think this, and this. Yeah, me too. Did you see this or that? You know, and that's fun. It's fun to do. I like doing it. I talked about The Irishman the other day, and we're talking about The Irishman in the comments of my review. It's fun to talk about the celebrities. Are they losing it? Are they getting better? This is a great performance. This is a terrible performance. You know, it's fun. So the celebrity culture isn't dying. It's not going away, but it is changing. And, you know, the transition between radio and TV, same deal. The mediums are changing. So this current crop of celebrities, yeah, a lot of them are not going to survive this purge. As well they shouldn't. Some of them are, well, they're just dumb. Or they've lost it. They've lost their mojo, or they're hanging on to the old model for dear life because they made so much money, and they don't want to end up in their homes talking to a phone by themselves for almost no money. They don't want to end that way. They still want their millions of dollars. They want their green room. They want their assistants who bring them their lattes and you know, the lavish luxury that provides. And it's all going away. Yeah, it's all going away because, you know, this is all going to spread out and atomize, and it's going to be kind of like comics. And, you know, they say if you can get 10,000 fans online, you have 1,000 real fans to buy your product, and that's enough to support you. So that's where we're headed in that atomization. So welcome to the new model, celebrities.